All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're diving deep into The Night Agent Season 2.
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah, it really is. Buckle up whether you've already seen it or not, because we're going to break down some of those twists and turns that make this season so good.
Yeah, like right from the beginning, they just throw you right into the action. Peter Sutherland, our night agent, finds himself in the thick of it. A mission in Bangkok. Gone wrong.
I mean, talk about a nail-biter from the get-go.
Mhm.
He's with Alice, his partner, and they're on this operation, tracking this intel drop,
Yeah.
and,
And boom, everything just goes sideways.
yeah, just like that.
And then Alice, she dies. Shocking death. You're immediately like, was the extraction point compromised?
Yeah, who can Peter trust?
Right. Like that becomes the big mystery.
Totally. And then we have Rose Larkin coming into the picture.
Our tech whiz.
Right, from last season.
Yeah.
She's crucial in finding Peter when he goes off the grid.
She's got that adverse her tracking software.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff. But also,
It makes you think, though, right? It's powerful, but could also be misused. Kind of like those real-world concerns, surveillance, data privacy.
it really does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Makes you wonder, what if the wrong people got their hands on that kind of tech?
for sure. Speaking of dangerous, we're introduced to Warren Stoker, the guy Peter's tracking.
Okay, so Peter goes undercover, becomes a basketball coach, just to get close to Stoker's son.
And he even sets up, like, a fake meeting.
Oh, and then there's that chase scene through the amphitheater.
Yeah.
Abandoned, of course. It's like classic cat and mouse.
But then, just when you think Stoker's about to spill the beans about this Foxglove program, he's assassinated.
That's right.
Leaving everyone wondering who's really in control and what is this Foxglove all about.
Right, like the plot just gets thicker and thicker.
It does, and then we shift gears to the Iranian embassy.
Where we meet Noor.
This young woman putting everything on the line to get intel to the CIA.
She's risking it all just to try to secure asylum for her family.
It really makes you think about the choices people have to make when they're, under that kind of pressure.
Yeah, no kidding. And the world of espionage, definitely not black and white.
Yeah.
So we finally learned about Foxglove.
Oh, yeah. That's a chilling one. It's all about developing synthetic weapons.
Synthetic weapons.
Synthetic weapons. The logic, the idea is to create these things so you can also make the antidote, like a preemptive thing.
Good.
But it raises some serious questions, right? About consequences, technology like that. And is preemptive action ever really justified?
It's a dangerous game, for sure. Then we meet the antagonists.
Thomas, this calculating Englishman, and his cousin, Marcus.
Ruthless.
And they're dynamic. Oh, man.
They steal the mobile lab, the one with the Foxglove weapons?
Stakes just got even higher.
Definitely.
And Noor's family, they try to get extracted from Iran.
Doesn't go as planned, though, does it?
No, her brother, he's killed during the escape. And to make matters worse, the CIA, they decide to keep this from Noor to make sure they get the intel. Tough situation. It makes you really think about the moral side of intelligence gathering, manipulating someone who's already putting so much at risk.
Yeah, that's heavy. But then, the twist. The intel Noor risked her life for, it's not about Foxglove.
It's a list of Iranian dissidents living in Europe. So now you think, there's a bigger game at play. Like, they're giving Iran chemical weapons, and then, bam, a list of targets.
It's like layers upon layers. And then Catherine, the new head of Night Action, dealing with the loss of Alice while also leading this huge investigation.
She encounters this French diplomat. Turns out he's selling secrets.
And then she comes face to face with Solomon, Alice's killer.
It gets personal really fast. Revenge becomes a big part of the story.
Oh, and poor Rose, she gets kidnapped.
And they force her, use her expertise to develop this deadly, KX agent. They're exploiting her skills.
Terrible. So
Yeah.
Peter, he's determined to save Rose. He makes a risky move. He releases Solomon, Alice's killer.
In exchange for Rose's location. Bold move.
Yeah, but Catherine sees it as a betrayal.
Right, you can see both sides, though. Peter's acting out of love, desperation, but there are consequences. It could put him in danger, too.
Definitely. Then, Thomas. He meets a grim end. Killed by his own cousin, Marcus.
Shows you how ruthless Marcus is. He sees weakness, he eliminates it, and then the climax.
Oh, man. The climax. Rose and a Foxglove scientist, they sabotage the KX production.
Escape from the warehouse.
Race against time to stop Marcus from unleashing a chemical attack on Manhattan.
It all comes down to this final showdown in this high-rise apartment.
Peter and Rose, they manage to stop Marcus, but not before he activates the weapon.
Talk about a close call.
Right. But they think fast. They use the sprinkler system to neutralize the KX agent.
Clever.
But then, just when you think it's over, bam, Peter gets arrested for his dealings with Solomon.
It makes you think. He saved countless lives, but he broke the rules. Is justice always so black and white?
Right. The show leaves you with those tough questions. And then another bombshell. We find out that stolen UN case file, it had evidence. A U.S. official selling foxglove plans to Thomas's father. Yeah, and then they use this to blackmail a presidential candidate to drop out of the race. Talk about manipulation on a whole other level.
It's scary to think about.
Right. So then they offer Peter a deal. Work as a double agent to expose the mastermind, this guy named Jacob.
So he's going even deeper.
The last scene, we see Peter standing in front of the White House, ready for his next mission. Clearly, this is just the beginning. Wow, what a wild ride.
It is, and we've only just begun to unpack it all.
Let's take a moment and explore some of the deeper themes that make this season so captivating. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Okay, so we just went through like a whirlwind of everything that happens in The Night Agent Season 2. But like, what really sticks with you after watching it?
You know, one thing that really struck me is that theme of trust. Or really the lack of it. I mean, right from the start, Peter's feeling betrayed. Like, he doesn't know who to trust, even in the organization he's supposed to be a part of.
And it makes you question everything, right? Like loyalty, duty, all of it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just him, nor too.
Oh, totally. When the CIA manipulates her, keeps that info about her brother from her.
Right. So it brings up all these questions like, how much can we really trust those in power? How far is too far when it comes to national security, you know, at what cost?
It's heavy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the show doesn't shy away from that. It's like all these moral gray areas, the characters are constantly having to make these tough choices.
There are no easy answers.
No, not at all. Another thing that really resonates is that idea of sacrifice. Both Peter and Noor, they sacrifice so much. People they care about, they're in constant danger. And it's all for this cause that's often, like, shrouded in secrecy.
Makes you wonder, do the ends ever justify the means?
Right, that's the question, isn't it? And then there's the manipulation. It's almost like this undercurrent throughout the whole season.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like with Rose. They twist her talents, use them for their own purposes.
And then the political stuff. The election. That candidate being forced to drop out.
Someone's always pulling the strings.
It makes you think how much of what we see in the real world, like in politics, the media, is influenced by things we don't even know about.
Right. It makes you question things. Think critically. Don't just take everything at face value.
Okay, but let's talk about the technology for a second.
Oh.
Specifically, Rose's software, Adverse.
Powerful stuff. But like we said, also dangerous.
Yeah, I have a double-edged sword, like so much technology these days.
It really reflects those concerns we have now about surveillance, data privacy, the ethics of all this new tech.
And it makes you realize technology can be used for control, for manipulation, so easily.
But the thing is, Rose, she struggles with these ethical questions. It's not just about the tech itself, it's the human element.
It makes her character so much more interesting, you know, so much more relatable. With all this going on, how do you think all these events, like how do they impact the characters?
Well, for Peter, this season is like a trial by fire. He comes out of it tougher, but also more disillusioned. He's lost some of that innocence, you know?
And his faith in the system.
Yeah, he has to operate in this world of shadows. He makes compromises, ends up a double agent, which is kind of ironic.
It's like a twisted hero's journey.
Yeah.
He saves the day, but at a huge cost.
And Noor, I mean, the trauma she experiences, it's undeniable. Losing her brother, that betrayal, it's all got to have an impact.
It ends up alone, even though she gets asylum.
Which is, it's a victory, but it's bittersweet. Shows the real human cost of all this.
And it reminds us that even when someone wins, there are still casualties, scars that run deep. What about Rose?
Well, for Rose, her experience, especially being kidnapped, forced to work with those guys, it shows that even the smartest people can be manipulated.
It makes her more human. She's not just this genius coder. She's vulnerable too.
But she's also resilient. She doesn't break.
That's true. So taking a step back, looking at the whole season, what do you think is the main message, the thing the creators are trying to say?
I think it's a warning about how power can be used for bad.
Yeah, the lengths people will go to stay in control. Espionage, manipulation, violence.
It's a bit cynical, but maybe realistic. Good and evil, those lines, they get blurry.
Even people with good intentions can get caught in the middle of it all.
And the systems we rely on, they're flawed. Maybe the best we can do is just try to minimize the damage.
Heavy stuff, but definitely feels relevant, especially today.
It makes you confront some truths about ourselves, about the world.
So many questions that need to be explored further. Okay, so we've talked about a lot, all those twists and turns in The Night Agent Season 2. But after watching the whole thing, what really stays with you? Like, what questions are still swirling around in your head?
Yeah, for me, it's that whole question of, do the ends ever really justify the means? Like, when you're talking national security, can you really justify sacrificing individual rights? How much collateral damage is acceptable? It's something the show really digs into, those ethical dilemmas, and there are no easy answers.
Right. The characters are constantly struggling with that. Peter, Catherine, Rose, they all have to make choices, and those choices, they have consequences. Sometimes it feels like there's no right answer, just different shades of gray.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what makes the show so interesting, right? It doesn't try to give you those simple solutions. It's more like it forces you to look at the fact that sometimes in that world, espionage, national security, sometimes there just aren't perfect solutions.
It's a tough reality to face.
Right.
And speaking of uncomfortable realities, that ending, Peter standing in front of the White House, accepting that role as a double agent, that's got to mess with your head a little bit.
Oh, for sure. It's like the perfect cliffhanger. Sets you up for what's going to come next, right? Makes you wonder how far Peter's willing to go. Will he end up becoming the thing he's fighting against?
Or will he, outsmart them all?
Uh-huh.
Expose the truth. It keeps you guessing.
Definitely. And we can't forget about the political side of things. They manipulated a presidential candidate, forced him to drop out of the race. That's chilling to think about.
It makes you realize how fragile democracy really is, right?
Yeah.
How easily someone with power can just, I don't know, abuse that power for their own ends.
Absolutely. And it reminds you that corruption, it's not just some made-up thing. It's real. It happens at the highest levels, and the effects, they can be huge.
So if we were to, sum it all up, what's the takeaway for our listeners? What's the heart of it all?
Well, I think it comes down to this. In a world where it's hard to know what's true, where people in power are working in the shadows, how do we as individuals, how do we hold on to our own sense of what's right and wrong?
It's a tough question, but an important one.
How do we make choices we can live with? How do we deal with these complex situations ethically? It's a challenge, but it's one we all face, even if it's not on such a grand scale.
Wow, that's something to think about. Really makes you think. Not just about spies and conspiracies, but about how we live our lives, the choices we make every day.
I think that's what makes this season so powerful. It's not just entertainment. It's a reflection of our own fears, the struggles we have in a world where it's hard to know what's right, what's wrong.
So I think we've done a pretty good job exploring The Night Agent Season 2. All those conspiracies, the characters, the things that make it so interesting, so thought-provoking. We've seen how power can corrupt, how even good intentions can lead to bad things happening.
And how even those who are skilled, who are dedicated, they can still get caught in the middle of all that manipulation, all the lies.
But more importantly, it leaves us with questions
Hmm.
about trust, about sacrifice, about that balance, security versus freedom, and ultimately about our own responsibility to deal with all this complexity, to do what's right, to search for the truth.
I think if this deep dive has gotten you thinking, that's great. What parts stuck with you? What questions are you still asking yourself? Let's keep the conversation going because, like the Night Agent shows us, the truth is out there. It's just waiting to be found.
And that's it for our deep dive into The Night Agent Season 2. Thanks for listening.